Good morning, friends.
How Mendoza is.
It's time to get our meeting started. We'd like to welcome all to the West Darlington congregation and Zoom this morning. Jehovah continue to feed us what we need to make it through this old system. And no matter how far away we might be. We have a fine meeting set before us this morning. But before we do that, let us all stand if you're able to do so. And together we'll sing Song 28, Gaining Jehovah's Friendship. And it'll be my privilege to pray. So now we're privileged to listen to Brother Lucas Rebegas from the San Rafael congregation in Argentina. And the title of his talk is True Friendship with God and Neighbor. Brother Rebegas, you have our attention.
So there once was a wise man who was asked, why do we lose friends? His answer was, if you lose a friend, that means that he was not a friend. Friends are forever. Of course, this is just a short parable, but the truth is that a friend is not the same as an acquaintance. For our friends, we feel affection, we feel admiration, we trust them, we enjoy sharing moments together, we enjoy familiarity with them. Sure, we expect them to be loyal to us, to respect us, and with that comes the responsibility to reciprocate in those feelings. We don't avoid doing that, do we? We are happy when we have opportunities to show our friends how much we appreciate them. Actually, whoever wants a friendship without loyalty or responsibility really only wants an acquaintance, not a friend. And we surely don't want to treat our friends as mere acquaintances, do we? For that, we have to base our friendship in genuine love, which according to the Bible is an enduring quality that never fades. And how does a friend show that he bases his friendship on love? Well, a very wise king who lived many years ago explained it in a simple phrase. Let's read that in the Bible. Let's read Proverbs chapter 17, verse 17. If you go with me to that scripture, Proverbs 17, 17. It reads, "A true friend shows love at all times and is a brother who is born for times of distress." So acting in love, a friend is there for you in times of distress and gives you counsel in faithfulness. Isn't it true that our problems are more endurable when we are not alone? An English philosopher used to say that without friends, the world is a desert. So having good friends and being a good friend makes life more beautiful and rewarding, don't you think? So isn't it exciting that our Creator has given us this faculty of having good friends and being good friends? What is more important, He also gave us the enormous privilege of being His friends. Wouldn't you like to be friends with the one who created friendship? Well, I'm sure we have today here many good cooks this morning. Now, imagine that you buy a cookery book from a well-renowned chef in your country. Would you use it only to look at the pictures of the final product and try different cooking methods until you get it right? Or I'm sure that you want to read the recipe and follow it closely until to get the best result possible from the beginning. So, well, just like a good chef, God has in the Bible, He has left in the Bible the recipe to a successful friendship with Him and with our neighbor. So let's analyze one of the examples that we have in the Bible of a good friendship. You may be already thinking about them, David and Jonathan. They were very close friends. But have you ever thought about why David and Jonathan became such good friends, even when there was a 30 years difference between them? Let's try to understand the background. Let's think about Jonathan. We can say that he was going through a very difficult period in his life at the time he met David. Why? Well, let's remember that his father was a humble, obedient, and faithful person when he was appointed king. But over the years, he became an arrogant and disobedient king. The Bible tells us that Jonathan was very close to his father. So it's not difficult to imagine that he was concerned about the spiritual damage that this could be causing in the people of Israel. And we are sure that he was concerned because the Bible tells us that he was a man of great faith. And who else had a great faith in Jehovah? That's it, David. David faced Goliath without even having experience as a soldier. He was sure that Jehovah will help him defend his name and his people, regardless of his experience as a soldier. Let's see how the Bible recounts the occasion when Jonathan met David. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 18, verse 1 and 3. So 1 Samuel 18, 1 and 3. After killing Goliath, and David was asked to go see Saul. And the account reads, as soon as David had finished speaking to Saul, Jonathan and David became bound together in close friendship, and Jonathan began to love him as himself. And number 3, and Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as himself. This faith and courage of David surely impressed Jonathan. That's why he wanted to be friends with him. But let us put ourselves in the place of Jonathan. He could see how his father evidently no longer had the favor of Jehovah. And he could also see how David, being so young and inexperienced, had done many things. It was evident that he had the favor of Jehovah. There was God's Spirit acting on David. So they, both of them, made a covenant to trust each other. This covenant proved to be key for the trials that the friendship would face in the future. Consider just one example of the trials that they may have faced. Jonathan was the eldest son of Saul. He was heir to the throne of Israel. It will be logical to think that Jonathan was hoping to be the next king of Israel. What if he really wanted to be king? What if he really wanted to correct the mistake that his father was making as king? Well, David knew that Jehovah had promised him that he would be the next king of Israel, not Jonathan. Did David tell this information to Jonathan? Surely. And how did Jonathan react to that? Did it affect him? Had he maybe an internal struggle? Well, the Bible does not tell us, but it does tell us what is really important: the faith and loyalty of Jonathan. He had no doubt that David had God's Spirit, so he fulfilled his oath to him, and he continued to view him as his friend, not as his rival. And how wonderful will it be to see them resume their friendship in the new world when they are resurrected, wouldn't it? So what about us today? Can we seek out for friends like Jonathan and David? Can we show some such friendship ourselves? Well, absolutely, if we imitate Jonathan's and David. What lessons can we learn from them? Well, first, let's analyze the basis of their friendship. They both were friends because they had one friend in common, Jehovah. How can we now be friends with Jehovah? Let's see what the Bible says it's required. Let's read now Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. It reads, "Moreover, without faith, it is impossible to please God well. For whoever approaches God must believe that he is, and that he becomes the rewarder of those earnestly seeking him." Jehovah could have created us with the ability to automatically be his friends. But he didn't want that. He didn't want us to be his friends because he forced it into us. He wanted us to become his friends because of what we knew about him. So as we read here in Hebrews 11:6, we have to have faith in him. And how do we develop faith in Jehovah? Well, we have read many times John 17:3, haven't we? There we have the answer. We have to acquire accurate knowledge of Jehovah. We must know him. We must know his personality, his activities, what he's done in the beginning, what he's been doing throughout history, what he's doing now, and what he plans to do in the future. So when we learn about Jehovah, when we learn about his purposes, we cultivate a reverential fear of him, and that motivates us to show our love for him by obeying him. We know that David and Jonathan surely spent a lot of time getting to know Jehovah. What we can read in the Bible that David learned from Jehovah from creation. When he was young, he spent a lot of time tending his father's sheep. Perhaps that's when he started to meditate on creation and everything that Jehovah had done. And we can do the same today. We can also meditate on creation and we learn from Jehovah at the same situation. But we have another advantage over David and Jonathan. That is that we have the complete Bible today. When we read in the Bible, when we meditate on it, we can get to know Jehovah better. What else can we learn from David and Jonathan and their relationship with Jehovah? We can see that they trusted in Jehovah. We said earlier that Jonathan was a man of great faith. Let's see how the Bible recounts when he had to face a Philistine outpost. Let's read again, and let's go back to 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 6 this time. Chapter 14, verse 6. Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Come and let us cross over to the outpost of this uncircumcised man. Perhaps Jehovah will act in our behalf, for nothing can hinder Jehovah from saving by many or by few." What a display of trust in Jehovah he showed. He was sure that nothing can prevent Jehovah from saving his servants. And guess what? In this occasion, Jehovah gave him the victory. And what about David? Well, let's remember what David said to Goliath. "You are coming against me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I am coming against you in the name of Jehovah of armies, the God of the battle line of Israel, whom you have taunted." It takes a great faith to say that to the champion of the enemy army, doesn't it? Well, David was sure that going into battle in Jehovah's name made him stronger than Goliath and all his weapons. So we can learn today that we can too trust Jehovah today. But look how wonderful it is that Jehovah himself takes the initiative in showing trust in us. Proof of this is what we read in Amos chapter 3, if you want to read it with me. Amos chapter 3, verse 7. Amos 3:7. There it says, "For the sovereign Lord Jehovah will not do a thing unless he has revealed his confidential matter to his servants, the prophets." If we read the note here in confidential matter, it says his secrets, so his purposes for humanity. Imagine Jehovah reveals his secrets, his purposes to us. That's why today we can understand the events that are happening in the world, and we can also understand how they fit within Jehovah's purpose. And he also has entrusted that with the work of spreading the message of salvation to all people, and he trusts that we will do well. What a great show of confidence, don't you think? The supreme being of the universe trusts mere mortals. So don't you think that God will want us to trust him too? The truth is that in a friendship, there must be trust from both sides. So today we do not have to face the Goliath or a camp of Philistine soldiers, literally. But many times we face situations that symbolically represent a Goliath or a Philistine outpost. Perhaps we have to face the problem alone, or we lose our job, we have a health problem. Maybe the younger ones in school, they face pressures. Well, the list could be endless and very personal to each of us. And sometimes in these occasions, we feel that we are alone, that the people around us cannot help us. So it's like we are there, us against Goliath, us against the Philistines. But remember, you have the most powerful friend in the universe, The problem that David and Jonathan encountered at their time seemed impossible from a human's perspective, but they could see from another perspective. They could see Jehovah behind them, ready to support them, to help them, to defend them. So experiences like this, brothers, show that Jehovah's support is very, very real, and he never let us alone. Another thing that we can learn from David and Jonathan is the communication they had to become friends with Jehovah. They were men of prayer. We can read many of the prayers of David that were recorded in the Bible. In these prayers, we can see how he prayed for salvation, for guidance, for protection, for forgiveness of sins, for a pure heart. He also prayed when he felt downhearted, when he prayed when he felt grateful. So like David, Jehovah wants us to pray to him about everything that we want. He had created this direct line with him that is open 24 hours, 7 days a week. We can pray to him at any time of the day and night. We can talk to him about anything, but especially he wants us to pray about our intimate things. Let's read how he assures that to us in Philippians chapter 4. Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. Philippians 4, 6 and 7 reads, "Do not be anxious over anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, along with thanksgiving, let your petitions be made known to God. And the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and your mental powers by means of Christ Jesus." So this verse assures us that we can talk to Jehovah about anything that concerns us. But what would you think if a friend of yours called you only when he needed something? Wouldn't you start to think, well, does he really want to be my friend? Don't you think that Jehovah feels the same if we only pray to him when we need something? That's why here in Philippians 4 that we just read says, along with thanksgiving. It's as if Paul was reminding us that you can ask Jehovah for wherever you need, wherever you want, but do not forget to give thanks. And we have plenty of reasons to be thankful for every day, don't you think? And how do we hear Jehovah's answer today? Well, as we said earlier, we have an advantage that today we have the complete Bible. So the way we listen to Jehovah is by reading his word and putting it into practice. One way in which he answers us is giving us wisdom to make good decisions. The Bible goes straight to the point on this issue. James wrote that if anyone is lacking in wisdom, let him keep asking God and it will be given him. How loving is it from Jehovah, isn't it? Another way that Jehovah answers prayers is through his word when he gives us peace, as we just read here in Philippians. The peace of God will guard our hearts and minds. What other friend of yours can promise you that? But perhaps you're praying about a problem that is not coming to a solution, or at least not in the way that you expected it. Does this mean that Jehovah has forgotten you? Absolutely not. In fact, many times Jehovah answers our prayers by giving us the strength we need to endure. Isaiah wrote that Jehovah gives power to the tired one and full might to those lacking strength. So Jehovah is like that friend who, when you have to go through hardships, he is always there for you. And he tells you, come on, don't give up. Just remain filled, hold on just a little bit longer. And he has made you a promise that no other friend can make. Soon he is going to give his friends a world in which there will be no more problems of any kind. So don't give up. It is possible to be friends of Jehovah as David and Jonathan were. And what can we say about the friendship with our neighbor? Is it possible to have a friendship like that one of David and Jonathan? Well, yes, if we apply what the Bible says. How does a Christian view friendship then? Well, I personally have never been to the US, but I've been told that in the US there is a phrase that describes the stereotype of the people living in the southern part of the US, the southern hospitality. I've been told that Americans from the South are said to be kind, warm, and welcoming to visitors. I can understand that because in the area of Argentina where I live, especially outside bigger cities, in rural areas, people tend to be friendly to welcoming. But will we define being friendly with someone the same as being friends with someone? The truth is that friendship means more than acting friendly. A true friend must be sincere and seek for the best of others from the heart. What does a Christian then keep in mind when he seeks true friends? Well, as we say, we want to follow the recipe, don't we? So we turn to the Bible to find counsel. Let's read one that we find in Galatians chapter 6, verse 10. Galatians chapter 6, verse 10. It reads there, "So then, as long as we have the opportunity, let us work what is good toward all, but especially toward those related to us in the faith." How do we apply this counsel when we look for friends? Well, we do good to all when, for example, we share the kingdom hope with them, so that the people have the possibility of becoming God's friends. Jesus commanded us to do so, and he displayed this attitude when he was on earth. We want to be friendly with everyone, just as Jesus was, and to show love for humanity in general. But the kind of love that true friendship encompasses, we want to feel that kind of love only for those who are related to us in the faith, those who are also friends of Jehovah. Not long ago in our Watchtower study, we analyzed the case of Jehoshaphat. He did much for true worship in Judah, but he was reckless in making friends with those who rejected Jehovah and his worship. The result, Jehovah reprimanded him and told him that he could not be friends with him and with the ones who rejected him. So neither can do we today. That is why we seek our friends only within the congregation of God. And even within the congregation, we make sure that our friends also have Jehovah as their friend. Like David and Jonathan, we look for good friends only among those who have Jehovah and a friend. How do we show now that we love our friends, now that we have our friends in the congregation? Well, a nice way of doing it would be taking the initiative to give proof of our friendship. This is especially important when our friends are going through difficult times. Let's go back to the example of David and Jonathan. As we know, at one point, David was forced to flee from Saul because he wanted to kill him. Jonathan tried several times to make his father change his mind, but Saul was determined to kill David. So let's see how Jonathan supported his friend at this occasion. Let's go back to 1 Samuel, this time chapter 23, verse 16 and 17. 1 Samuel 23, 16 and 17 reads, Jonathan, the son of Saul, now went out to David at Horesh, and he helped him find strength in Jehovah. He said to him, do not be afraid, for my father Saul will not find you. You will be king over Israel, and I will become second to you. And my father Saul also knows that. What a nice example of loyalty he displayed, didn't he? The man was willing to risk his life to give strength to his good friend. So one way that we understand that we show our loyalty to Jehovah is by being loyal to our friends. And we can help them, as Jonathan did with David, to find strength in Jehovah. So we too must be willing to give of ourselves, of our time, of our understanding, our material goods in favor of our friends. In this case, Jonathan's example can teach us much. He, as we said earlier, he perhaps had to face a conflict of loyalties. He had to decide between being loyal to his father and being loyal to David. But he knew that the most important thing was being loyal to Jehovah. And in this case, David had Jehovah's approval, so he had it clear. He had to be loyal to David. The truth, brothers and sisters, is that friendship with God, as well as with our neighbor, is not unrealistic, it's not unattainable. We have many good examples in the Bible of people who became friends with Jehovah and who also enjoyed great friendships on earth. They all stood out for the same qualities: their faith, their trust, and their obedience. So today, that is also possible. Of course, we have to recognize that when it comes to our friendship with Jehovah, it carries more obligations and more responsibilities than a friendship with our neighbor. If we want to be friends with Jehovah, we have to please him in all things. But even then, he promises us that his commandments are not a burden to us. They are not too difficult to fulfill. What benefits do we receive if we struggle to, or we make an effort to be friends with God? Well, we will earn rewards that no other friend can promise us or can give us. For the first part, we today are part of the warm and welcoming congregation of Jehovah's worshippers. We can find friends regardless of country, race, language. The important thing is that they also trust and are friends with Jehovah. And this friendship gives us happiness now, and it gives also the possibility of living eternally in the future. Any friendship that you want to keep forever will be based in your friendship with Jehovah. So think about your friends. Would you like to keep them forever? Well, soon Jehovah and Jesus will introduce their friends into a new world where all will be true friends. Will you be there? For sure, if you today make an effort to be friends with Jehovah and with your neighbor.
Brother Rebecca, speaking for the congregation, we all enjoyed that fine timely talk. You helped us to see by pursuing friendship with God and neighbor, it will help us to maintain a loving and warm congregation, because true friends never fail.